Well, hello again, everyone. Today we're going to look at chords. Now, when we talk about chords, there are really two types we're going to deal with. The first of these are called triads, and the second, which we'll handle down here, are called seventh chords. And what this means, we'll talk about that. You see up here, pretty run-of-the-mill C major scale. Let's get a good tempo on that. Maybe, I don't know, 120 beats a minute, just so you can hear the scale. And let's give that a listen. It's pretty straightforward. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a third above each pitch. Now, think about what a third is. We're not going to talk about quality of thirds right now. We're just going to add the third. So third above any C is E. Third above any D is F. Basically, I'm what we call planing the scale up a third. Now let's think about the quality of our thirds here for a second. C to E, if both are the same, is what kind of third? That's right, it's a major third. So what about D to F? Minor. E to G, also minor. F to A, that one's major. And then G to B, also a major. A to C is a minor. B to D, minor. And of course C to E is just like it was down an octave, so it's a major third. What if I kept adding thirds? So I stacked up another third on top here. And what's the quality then of these upper thirds? So if we're looking at the upper third, the top two notes, well, E to G, as we saw earlier here, E to G is a minor third. F to A, major third. G to B, also a major third. A to C was a minor third. B to D, minor third. C to E, as we saw way back at the beginning, was a major third. G to F is a minor, of course. E to G is a minor third as well. So let's take a look at this. What does this mean? Well, let's listen to these in context now. Interesting thing you might notice here. In 7 of these 8 chords, well, technically 6 of the 7 because the first and the last are the same chord, just displaced by an octave. If the quality of the bottom triad, quality of the bottom third is major, what does that make the quality of the top third? Well, every time it's a major third on the bottom, it's a minor third on top. Most of the time that it's a minor third on bottom, it's a major third on top. It's interesting. There is one exception. We'll talk about that in a minute. Now let's talk about what we call the bounding interval. C to G is what kind of interval? That's right, fifth. And a perfect fifth at that. So C to G is a perfect fifth. How about D to A? Also a perfect fifth. About E to B. F to C. You're seeing a pattern here, I'm sure. G to B. A to E. B to F. Ooh, that one's different. That's right, that is a diminished fifth. Let me go back to the perfect fifth. So most of the fifths are perfect. So what we're learning from this is when you add a major third to a minor third, you get a perfect fifth. But because of the commutative property of addition, think back to 5th grade math, when you add a minor third to a major third, you also get a perfect fifth. It's only when you add two minor thirds together that you get a diminished fifth. Listen to these chords one more time. Listen to the difference in what we call quality. Each chord has a very distinct sound. So we talk about the quality of the chord here. If the bottom third is major and the top third is minor, then we refer to that as a major triad. We call it a triad because it consists of three distinct pitches that can be arranged in stacked thirds. We have a major triad. If the bottom third is minor and the top third is major, we call that a minor triad. So the chord built on E would be minor. The chord built on F, because the bottom third is a major third. Usually it's dictated by the bottom third. Whatever the bottom third is dictates what kind of triad it is. Except when we get to this chord, because it has two minor thirds instead of opposing types of thirds. And the term for that, when you have two minor thirds stacked on top of each other, creating a bounding interval of a diminished fifth, we call that a diminished triad. And then, of course, a repeat of tonic is major as well. Now, the thing is, this is going to be true of any major key. If I transpose this whole thing to E flat major, the chord built on E flat then, because it's the chord built on the first scale degree, would be a major triad. The chord built on G would be a G minor triad, because it's built on the third scale degree. It goes by scale degree theory. So first scale degree in a major scale, always a major triad. Triad built on 2 in a major scale, always minor. 3, minor. 4, major. 5, major. 6, minor. 7, diminished. 8, minor. Of course, 8 is just a repeat of 1. And the same thing happens in a minor scale. Let's take a look at stacking thirds. And let's use mostly the harmonic minor. So we're going to actually raise the 7th scale degree in a couple spots. Not all of them, just a couple of them. And then let's take a look at the quality of third we have here. So C to E flat it's a minor third. D to F, also a minor third. E flat to G, that's one larger than what we had above, so that's a major third. F to A flat, minor. Again, using the harmonic minor form of the scale here. G to B, we're using harmonic minor because we're dealing primarily with harmony. It's a major. A flat to C, also a major. B to D, minor. And of course, that's minor as well. Now, if we added another third to this, we end up with this. Now let's take a look at the quality of the top thirds. We'll talk about this one kind of on the fly in class because it's an interesting case. But E flat to G, move that up just a touch here. E flat to G is a major third. F to A flat, minor. G to B flat is a minor. A flat to C, major. B to D, minor. C to E flat, also minor. D to F, minor, and of course. So what about our bounding interval? Well, C to G, still perfect fifth. D to A flat now is a diminished. E flat to B flat, perfect. C to F to C, perfect. It's an early morning for me, folks. I mean, look at that, 9:32 a.m. That's when I used to go to bed in college. Right. G to D, perfect. A flat to E flat, perfect. B to F, as we saw earlier, diminished. And It's a perfect interval as well. So the quality of the chords in minor, again, use the bottom third as a starting point, then check the top third. If they're opposite, use the bottom third. So minor third on the bottom, major third on top is a minor triad. Two minors make it diminished. Major on the bottom, minor on the top. That's a major. Minor on the bottom, major on the top. Minor. Major. Major. Diminished. Minor. Now there are a couple of things that happen if we were to expand the harmonic minor to here. We get this, and that would change the quality of the top third to a major. So when we have two major triads stacked up, we can't refer to it as a major anymore. That's your augmented triad. We don't see the augmented triad a whole lot in traditional tonal music, so that's why I'm talking about this chord built on the third scale degree in minor. Oftentimes we keep the seventh lowered for that, so that it doesn't create this weird augmented construction. This would also change the bounding fifth at that point to an augmented fifth. That's why we call it that. So third scale degree, usually just write it as with the lowered seventh, so you get a major third on the bottom, minor third on top, and it's a perfect fifth bounding, so it's a major triad. But in any major key, or in any minor key, excuse me, this is what you're going to do. The chord built on the first scale degree is minor. Second, diminished. Third, major. Go with major. Augmented is a rare case. Fourth, minor. Fifth, if you raise the third here, and let's go ahead and confirm that raised third there, would be major. And then minor. I'm sorry, major for the sixth scale degree, diminished for the seventh because we're raising the leading tone there, minor. What would the subtonic be? If that was a B flat instead of a B natural, and we have the lowered seventh, the subtonic would be what kind of triad? Does it change the bottom third? Yes, it does. Turns it into major. Does it change the top third? Nope, it's still F, D to F. It's still minor. So we'd have a major triad, major third on the bottom, minor third on top. That would be a major triad if we have the subtonic. So those are triads, three distinct notes. What if, through the magic of cut and paste, we kept going? So here we are in a major key again. We stacked another third. Now, in theory, you could keep stacking thirds to infinity, but at a certain point it does become kind of pointless because you just start doubling back on yourself. Well, now we have a major triad with what kind of seventh is C to B? Right, it's a major, major seventh. So we'd call it that. Now, for the second scale degree, we have a minor triad, DFA, and what's D to C? What kind of seven is that? That's right, minor, minor. For the third scale degree, also a minor triad with a minor seventh. So the first M refers to the triad. Second M refers to the type of seventh. So F to A is a major triad. FACM means a major triad. F to E is a major seventh. So major, major seventh. And then we have this chord. This chord will become very important. The chord built on the fifth scale degree. It's a major triad. What kind of seventh is G to F? That's right. Minor seventh. Major, minor seventh. That's interesting. And then we have ACE, which is a minor triad. A to G, minor seventh. B, D, F is diminished. B to A is a minor. Diminished minor 7. We have a special symbol for that, which I'll put in here in a minute. And then we're back to the major, major 7th. Interesting, most of the time that the chord quality, the quality of the underlying triad and the quality of the 7th are the same. But when they're not, it really stands out. The diminished minor here is sometimes referred to as a half diminished 7. Half diminished. Let's look at the same thing in minor chords here. going to flat that B back out here. So let's just add in the diatonic sevenths, and we'll usually, again, it's only when we get the chords built on 5 and 7 that we raise the B, so let's do it this way. Right, so C, E flat, G is a minor triad. C to B flat is what kind of seventh? Minor seventh. D, F, A flat, diminished triad. G to C is a minor seventh, so we get that diminished minor seven. Let's just go ahead and call that the half diminished seven. All right, then E flat, G, B flat is a major triad. E flat to D is a major seventh, major seventh. F, A flat, C, E flat, minor triad, minor seventh. G, B, D, F, major minor seventh, because it's exactly like it was in a parallel major. A flat, G, A flat, C, E flat, G, major triad, major seventh, major seventh. B, D, F, diminished. B natural to A flat. That's one smaller than a minor seventh, making it a diminished seven. No, we're not dealing with James Bond here. We're not going to get our chord shaken, not stirred. To keep it consistent, we'll just use a single 0 or O without a slash through it, a small O without the slash for the fully diminished seventh. Again, this was a half diminished seventh because it's diminished triad with a minor seventh. This is fully diminished because it's diminished triad with a diminished seven. That becomes important a little later on. And then we're back to the minor seven. So these are the different types of seventh chords, all named because they have a seventh above their root. Now in class, we'll talk about position of the chords because it's not always what we call the root of the chord that's on the bottom. We give each chord factor a name based on what position holds in the chord. The note on which you build the chord. And again, this will not always be the lowest sounding pitch, but it is the pitch that generates the rest of the chord. It is the pitch that you stack the thirds on top of. It's called the root of the chord. So whatever scale degree you're on happens to be the root of the chord. So if I'm on what we call a tonic triad here, the first scale degree is my root, so this is the root. The middle note of the triad is called the third. Top note is called the fifth. Again, this is after you stack them in what we call root position. When you're dealing with seventh, you have the root, third, fifth, and the seventh. Any one of these could be in the bass. We could have a situation, let's take this. These are all the same chord in different positions, C major chord. This is also a C major chord, as is this, as is this, as is this. As would be, oh, this would be fun. All of those are C major chords. This one, this one, this one, this one, and this one are all in root position. This is in first inversion because it's got the third in the bass. This would be what's called in second inversion. And with sevenths, you could even get a third inversion. You could have a seventh chord that looks like this. That would be a G7 chord in third inversion. We'll talk about chord inversions a little more in class. So, meantime, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Hope everyone has a great day.